read it out to you. Could you just share with the team what you've done to align the channels and the field sales business in ASEAN to help better leverage the partners?
Okay, thank you, Phil. Morning, everyone, again. In our commercial operating model, we actively and deliberately build a platform between us and the customer. Now, this is a very, very important concept because I think we've spoken about channel leverage and stuff like that, but I don't think we take them very seriously. So in our commercial operating model, this is a deliberate activity. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through how we went about building this framework, and we'll share some of the outcomes of our implementation as well. We are organized, I think, similar to many of you guys here, where we've got the field sales team, we've got the territory managers. They generally share the same territory or country number. So we started the year last year by doing two things. We look at the customer view and we looked at the partner view. So let me start with the customer view.
Do you want to flick that forward?
It's okay.
Yeah. You do it when you're ready.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
Thank you. So we did a segmentation exercise with Samuel, who gave us a lot of insights about our addressable market after the ERM coverage right at the top of the triangle. We also went through the same motion in talking about how many business application users and so on, right? And so we identified a group of companies that might be 30, 40, 50, depending on the FSM's decision on how much that volume would be that is sufficient to feed meaningful activities. Okay, so we went through this exercise and then we locked it in for 1 year. The second exercise we did, which was very important, was that we look at identifying and onboarding the focus partners. So the objective here is for the FSM A to play in that 30, 40, or 50 customer view space, and then aligning the majority of his activities and time with the 2 or 3 focus partners. Okay? So we have 4 qualifying criteria on how we could best decide the mix of partners. The first criteria is, do they have the brand? In other words, do customers want to interact and transact with them? Okay. Number 2, do they have the depth? In other words, do they have the experience, the practices, the resources, and so on? Number 3, are our solutions complementary? Okay, it must make sense in that manner, right? Because it can't be, let's say, an office provider, SI for furniture and stuff like that, right? And the final one, which is critical, is do they have the heart? In other words, do they have the intention to want to work with us actively? Okay, so we went through this motion, and then we get Shirish and Budi, our CDM organization, to validate that choice by some data-driven analysis, right, based on previous year's transactions and some metrics that came out. And then the choice is ours to decide yay or nay. Okay? Objective being to identify 2 or 3 focus partners that the FSM is committed to selling with and through in that particular customer segment, that 30, 40, or 50 accounts. Okay? So we've done the part for the FSM. And now we have got the territory managers. Remember that the TMs support the FSMs, and they both share the same country number. So we do a similar exercise for them as well, but it's somewhat an abridged version because we understand that they don't necessarily have the ability to touch as many customers as them. So it could be a combination of customers, it could be a certain sector, it could be our existing name accounts that has not purchased from us for a couple of years or has a very low share of wallet, whatever, right? But the important thing is that we must have some sort of target so that they can then work with the respective focus partners. So they also have a different set of focus partners, another 2 or 3, to drive that addressable customer space. Okay? So the territory managers also manage the distributors, who in turn manage the unmanaged or tier 3 partners for us. Now, although they both share the same territory number, we are segmenting where they're going to spend most of the time, with the FSMs focusing on the upper end and the TMs on the lower end. And the objective of that is to create accountability and to minimize overlaps and maximize market outreach. So that in essence is our commercial operating model. Okay? Now, where then do we collaborate with the CDMs and with Citrix and Buddhist organization? Because I think there's some gray areas, there's many overlaps, and we define it as such. We draw a line in the sand where for field sales, for the territory managers, we will be responsible and accountable for all activities related to customer, money, as in quotations, proposals, forecasting, commits, closing deals, and so on. In other words, we are salespeople. Make no mistake, right? We carry a heavy burden, okay? And then Shirish and team helps us on the other aspects, operational stuff, rebates, all the enablement activities. I want to show an example where we have worked very well together, where they have come up with a very comprehensive channel enablement framework that has got sales, pre-sales, post-sales tracks. And where they play the role is to build this out and then execute it for us in a programmatic manner, classroom style, online stuff, making sure they attend the certification and so on. Whilst in the field, we will then handhold the partners, coach them, show them how it's done, sell together, practice what they have learned from the trainings that they have attended. So this is an example of where we delineate the roles and responsibilities in our respective organizations. So with that, I want to swing it to Callum, because one of the outcomes of this particular model has been a partner and customer success outcome in Vietnam using the commercial operating model.
Morning.
Over to you. Thank you. Hang on. Let's hear what he says first, see if it's worth applauding.
So Vietnam was an interesting market for us as part of ASEAN. We don't have any staff in Vietnam. So right now the channel is our go-to-market. It's our route to market. It's fundamental. So the first thing that Shirish and I did when we started talking about how we go to business in Vietnam was to determine if there was a market. Obviously there is. It's a growth market. There's money in that market. Then we started diagnosing the channel structure and whether there were channel partners that, to Ching Su's point, had commonalities and alignment with what we were trying to achieve. Now the interesting thing is we had existing CSA channel partners in the Vietnamese market that weren't selling anything for us. In fact, they just continued to maintain their CSA status as a status symbol in alignment with whatever else they were pitching. So the outcome, in short, once we analyzed and diagnosed the market, was we actually ended up identifying 3 channel partners that we'd never dealt with before. So on identifying ETC, who are now a CSA with us, we spent time understanding the market that they were successful in. They've been very, very successful in the FSI market. They're a strong, aligned partner with Cisco and with NetApp and a number of hardware vendors. But more than anything, they understood the market that they were operating in. They had more technicians than they did salespeople. And Viet Bank saw them as a trusted advisor. These guys actually had, believe it or not, they had a soccer tournament together. Viet Bank is one of the biggest banks in Vietnam. Massive, massive bank. The RFP came to market, and the challenge for us was it came to market after it had been written and without us having any involvement. And it was clearly written for F5. It was built around a core banking requirement, around an application some of you may know called Fidelity. And we turned the world over looking for an example of where Fidelity had been deployed. But more importantly, these guys were able to understand what the requirement of the customer was going to be. Now, remember, this channel partner had never sold a NetScaler. This opportunity was selling SDX. So that was a significant mind shift for them. And we met an interesting point that Phil wanted me to make. On purpose, we met with the customer, Citrix met with the customer once. And that was prior to the RFP coming out. We then used the channel partner as our route to market completely. We trained them on what they needed to know. We have networking specialists that were covering the region. Jaywon was up there covering the region for us. He spent a lot of time educating the channel partner on how they would deliver a solution that F5 couldn't combat. So for example, the fact that SDX would give them the ability to scale their device, adding extra instances, that was a pitch that our channel partner did. We didn't do it. So on top of that, as a conclusion, as part of the overall deal, the net result is we've now got ETC talking to them about a VDI solution. So this is a complete paradigm shift, and a country, by the way, going back where we began, where we never, or we don't have any representation. We've got no staff. So it's an exciting route to market for us. I guess the other byproduct here is ETC trust us. They know that we're not going to disrespect the relationship they have. After this, in fact, as early as last week, Vietnam Bank were in Singapore with ETC doing some training. And we were doing that at our office. So when the time was right, and when ETC felt it was appropriate, they reintroduced us to the customer. We're going back up to Vietnam, and we'll be working with Vietnam Bank, and as the channel partner allows, we'll be engaging with them. But it's an exciting opportunity. So back to you.
Fantastic. Yeah, great story of channel engagement. That one, leading to a very, very positive outcome. What was the revenue value that deal? 450K. So,
that's just phase one.
What's that? How much this year you got in your back pocket?
That's just phase one.
All right, okay. Just phase one, fantastic. So, don't assume that channel partners can't do these deals independently. I remember Mikalev telling me that there was a deal that came in, I think last year, I can't remember who it was, there was about 300K or something like that, didn't even know about it, which is exactly what we want. It's not necessarily about having to, I hesitate in saying this because I'm sure the AVPs would kick me for not worrying about forecasting.
So Phil, the other point out here is Vietnam Bank we wanted to talk about this because this is an ideal case, right? It's a large one, 450K. But if you look at Vietnam, with a similar kind of a model operating in this year, we've already done more than $1 million, $1.3 million, right? So it's essentially a territory where we do not have people, where we depend a lot on our partners such as ETC, plus our distributor, in order to work their way in the market and create a true winning proposition for us.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Please thank the ASEAN guys. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good on you, mate. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, mate. Okay, let me just...